Hey, good morning everybody. Welcome back to the channel. So, today I am doing some warm-up faces. It's going to be a Labor Day weekend, so I'm going to cut out early today and go and spend some time with the fam. But I always want to, sit down and at least do a little bit this morning to keep my focus and keep me where I need to be. So, I'm just going to do a few faces for you guys, cartoon faces, utilizing simple shapes to start. It doesn't take a lot, whenever you start getting into this, to really get a handle and understanding on what shapes work for, different types of characters. As a character designer, I always want to keep in mind that there's a reason behind why the character is dressed the way they are. And certain silhouettes really will accentuate the attitude a little bit better as far as, whenever you're looking at that particular character design. Hard lines, rectangular shapes, squares, especially triangles, will all be indicative of maybe a villain. And rounder shapes will be indicative of a friendlier character. And of course, whenever you start getting into the really hardcore designs, then you can, just think in terms of just simple shapes and how, they will read. Such as, if you were to do, let's say you did something like this, right? Okay, simple. Okay, so this is a very good example. So this would be indicative of maybe a villain. You have a large mass up here, you have the head as a triangle, and then you have these sharper, kind of little bug buzzing in my face, that reads as possibly a villain. And then if you do something like this, it's going to have a much friendlier connotation. And I've talked about this before, how certain body types read and certain head shapes. So let's say you want to do, a strong, dumpy character that doesn't have a lot of smarts but is very strong. So maybe you'll have a very small base for the head, right? Okay. Little itty bitty legs. Okay, little mouth. So not too smart. And it's the little nuances that really make a difference a lot of times. Maybe he's kind of huge, broad shoulders that you can go in and help define. He's wearing a wife beater. So he's physically got a large presence to him. His elbow. He's got these big old hands. Okay. Wearing some tight gym shorts. Maybe he's an ex-gym teacher. Little bitty feet. Okay, there you go. So that makes sense. So he's not too smart, but he's got a huge hulking body, and maybe he's an ex-fighter, so that's why he's had issues. But as I go through and I'm just doing warm-ups, I'm trying to keep things really simple. So this guy's going to be more or less a cowboy. So let's go ahead. Now I can go in and chisel, it just depends on how far I want to go, right? And maybe he's got these big ears, right? not unintelligent, but he's a rule follower and he listens a lot. So that's another thing. Maybe he, since he's, you know, maybe a police officer or a lawman, he's got these big ears that help him listen to all the facts. He's all about the facts. If that makes any sense to you. Right? Kind of clean cut. Doesn't have a lot of scruff. Right? He's got these big bushy eyebrows. And as I'm doing this, I'm going through in my brain trying to really think about what's going to make sense. Right? So then he's got this. And a lot of times I'll have a voice in my head that'll help define who the character is as I go through and I'm designing it. I'm a huge Saturday morning cartoon guy. That's what I used to get. I literally get up at 5 in the morning and go in and watch Saturday morning cartoons. Okay. Make the ears a little bit more defined. He's got his mustache. And he's got this strong jaw. See, immediately whenever I did that, it solidified him more as a lawman. He's got that strong jaw that, you know, has seen quite a few fights here and there. And he doesn't waver on the law. But he will listen to you. If that makes any sense. Hopefully it does. So what I'm doing right now is just going back, putting a little bit of shadow and shape and form into him. Color this in a little bit. And he's got his bottom lip that comes up. And color this, shade this in a little bit.
Now tell me again what you saw.
Right? And so you guys watched. I mean, I started out with just a simple shape, kind of a long shape, right? Something fun. And you know, whenever you go through life, you'll start seeing these different shapes in people. Now, do I think there's any human being that actually looks like this? No. But that's what's called pushing and pulling that form. You push and pull that form to, you know, better establish what you're trying to say. So this is, you know what? There's a guy, I think I've mentioned this before, there's a guy at the post office. His name is Knox Garrett, and that is the quintessential Old West Sheriff Knox Garrett. I mean, that's just awesome. I told him, I said, I'm going to put you in one of my concepts. He's like, that sounds good, son. And he's a little bit older, but awesome. Okay, so now, see, he's more of a Western, kind of a Western character. Now we're going to get into maybe a smarter guy, but doesn't really have a lot of muscles. So that particular shape can be easily identified if you have a weaker body. Okay, not too big, but the chin is really and the head shape. So the head shape, yeah, he's smart, so he's got this big head, right, like this. And now I'm going to come back. Okay, he's got that large schnoz. Okay, we'll come back here. He's got that head shape that comes here. Right there. And that eyebrow comes up just a little bit and comes down. And then we have his hair. kind of like a Bill Gates. If you ever look at Bill Gates' face, his face is kind of disproportionate. I mean, he's proportionate in terms of a human being, but he's got, you can look at him, and he's kind of always slunched over, kind of like Burns, Montgomery Burns from Simpsons, and he's got that kind of feel to him, but also he's got that, it's like he has a small chin, weak small chin, weak, you know, in terms of not been in any fights, using his big brain to solve all of his conundrums, you know. And he's got these, so you don't want to make his eyes too small because then he'll be beady and evil looking. So I'll make him just normal size like that. But then he's like, he's maybe standing in a line at Starbucks, you know. And he's like, can I please have a mocha latte, extra foam, please? Very meek, kind of a meek character, right? And then we've got his small mouth. He's talking. Can I please have that latte? I ordered it like 5 minutes ago. I've been waiting patiently. Other people have gotten their drinks already. Okay, so then maybe he's going to work, so that he's got his, you know, his tie. And he doesn't have broad shoulders, he's weak shoulders, so he goes immediately down, right? And it's literally sometimes the little nuances that help. So now I'm just going to color in his hair. Shade in his hair, excuse me. Right? So then, to polish it off, you know, one of the little tricks of the trade, and you'll see this in movies, and you'll see this in pretty much anything concerning character design or characters, you know, you have, what do you call them? Predisposed things that we define as human beings as being, you know, such as smart, or not smart, smart, violent. You know, we look at that and it immediately reads as being smart, violent, or weak. You know, that's kind of what the whole, you know, cartoon and designing a character. You're pulling on those things that human beings really define in their, you know, their psyche and their psychosis as being what the character designer is trying to get across. So, weak chin, big brained, weak shouldered. Maybe he's got there's a little pocket protector right there. But then the piece de resistance is large, oversized glasses. Right? He's got these large, oversized glasses. And I'm not going to make them thick, because he's not a hipster. Right? They kind of curve down. And they're too big for him. And they ride, you know, they keep coming down, right? They keep coming down every single time he talks. He has to push them up with his finger. And these are the things, you know, that story designers and people in the movies really, it's simple. Where you start getting into trouble is whenever you start making the character too complex, right? It always needs to be an easy read. Easy read. You know, easy read from a distance. You know, you can look at this guy and say, oh, yeah. And see where we start, and the movie makers know this, so what they do a lot of time is they'll put this kind of guy, but then there's something off about him. You know, maybe they'll put a mole up here. You know, maybe they'll put a mole up here. and then suddenly something's wrong. Something's going on with him. And it's the little things that you don't realize, or maybe the tie is a different color or a specific color, or maybe it clashes, or maybe there's a crack in his glasses. You know, maybe we've got a little crack right here. Something obviously happened to put that crack in there, but we really don't know what it is. And then later on in the story, you realize that he's actually the villain. And he uses his big brain not for good, but for bad. So that's just a little bit of thought process to what I do whenever I'm designing and doing character art like this. Even though this was just a little warm-up, you get kind of an insight into what I do whenever I start designing and thinking about characters. And you should too. Start thinking to build your own stories. Think how you're gonna, you're gonna define the character and make him strong, but make him a strong character in terms of what he's supposed to be, but also not overcomplicate things. You don't want to overcomplicate things too much. Anyway, that's it. We'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye.